Hey everyone, Emma here, also known as 8vinyllow, bringing all of you another video. Today's video is going to be my Princeton Record Exchange Vinyl Haul / VC Meetup. The youngest members of the VC when we went to New Jersey / Philly, and again I'm going to plug it on this channel, down below, Dylan over at the Record Spinner. The youngest members of the VC 5-episode miniseries is now out. All of the episodes are out. You can watch them at your own convenience, sit back, have them with coffee, have them with a drink, however you want to do it. But episode 4, which is the Thursday episode, that showcased the Princeton Record Exchange Vinyl Haul, not only my haul, but other members of the vinyl community, as well as video footage from the VC Meetup. We ended up meeting up with my good friend, Bill over at the Vinylverse. Now, I've known Bill for years now because of YouTube, and we've become very close. We're in a group chat with a bunch of other members, and he's one of my best friends. So Bill is awesome. It was so great to meet him in person. I wish that we had more time to kind of catch up and just kind of say hi and all that stuff, but it was nice to kind of spend about 45 minutes or so digging through records, kind of joking around in the record store, and picking up a handful of things. So definitely go check out that episode. It is episode 4. Again, you can see actual footage. Bill's in there. And that episode is actually my personal favorite episode. There are some other great gems hiding in there. If you haven't seen it, that's all I'm going to give away. But it's definitely worth checking out. So Princeton Record Exchange. I got this bag on our journeys. Now, it is an extremely well-known independent record store. If you are kind of in the record sphere, which I'm sure all of you are since you are watching this video, you have probably heard of Princeton Record Exchange before. So I had a lot of high expectations going into this store, and I was definitely not disappointed with the selection. So I did walk away with a handful of records. That's what this video is going to be. Sit back, relax, and let's get into it. The first record that I picked up, now this was like $3 or something like that. Very cheap record. This is a band out of Illinois, Champaign, Illinois to be exact. This is the Elvis Brothers, Moving Up, their debut album from 1983. Now, I would consider them very pop rockish, but also in a way there's this like rockabilly element that kind of remind me of the Stray Cats a little bit. But this is an album that I've wanted to pick up for a while, obviously being an Illinois girl, and I have come across it so many different times here in Illinois record stores, and I always pass it up. And for the last few years, I always get a comment on maybe every third or fourth video from a viewer, and I can't remember who it is off the top of my head, but every single time they tell me, you need to check out the Elvis Brothers, Elvis Brothers, Elvis Brothers. And I know this band actually pretty well. So the drummer, his name is Brad Elvis. He was the drummer of this band. He also was the drummer later in the Romantics. He is also currently a drummer in a band called the Handcuffs out of the Chicagoland area. So he's also a huge Cheap Trick fan in and of itself. Great connections with Bunny Carlos of Cheap Trick. Here is the label. So I've been familiar with this band for a while, and this is a record that I see often, and I always pass it up. And so this time I decided I'm gonna grab this. It was $3 at Princeton Record Exchange in very nice condition. So I ended up grabbing this and finally have this. So whoever that viewer was that kept telling me to grab this album, here you go. The next album that I picked up was $2. Now this has a Cheap Trick connection, of course. This is Rick Derringer, and this is his album Guitars and Women. This came out in 1979 on that Blue Sky label you can see there. Now, I'm not huge into Rick Derringer. It's not like I don't enjoy his music. I just necessarily don't think that I would really add much of his material into the collection. However, of course, right, anything with a Cheap Trick connection comes home with me. And so this album, it was produced by Todd Rundgren, but there are a couple songs off this album that were written by Rick Nielsen of Cheap Trick. So real quickly, the 2 songs that are on here, a handful of songs here, but the first one is Need a Little Girl Just Like You. I mean, that sounds like a Cheap Trick song. So Rick Derringer, I should say, does a really nice job there, written by Rick Nielsen. And then he also wrote, where is it? It Must Be Love off of side 1, the last song off of side 1. So because of that Cheap Trick connection, of course I needed to pick this up. And I actually went to a Rockin' Vodka bottle signing probably about a handful of months ago. Rick Nielsen, he has a vodka that he's been promoting, and I went to go to one of the signings, and I had a couple of things that I wanted to get signed, and it's always great to see Rick. And someone actually brought this album for him to sign. So I actually have a picture of him holding this album, not this exact one, but just this album, because obviously he has a couple writing credits on here. So just a fun little fun fact, but for $1.99, you know, $1.99, $2, can't go wrong. This next album is the most commercially successful album from one of the most underrated musicians and singers, in my opinion. This is someone that I talk about often. His album called The Rock is one of my favorite albums of all time. It is a comfort album for me. This album, again, most commercially successful, I would say, probably the one, if you're familiar with him, this is the one that you are familiar with. Came out in 1977, and I'm talking about the Frankie Miller Band, Full House. See that nice label there? So this is like your blues rock, blue-eyed soul. His voice, he's got it, he just has that raspy, soulful voice that's so familiar yet extremely unique to him. Like if someone were to put on a Frankie Miller song, I would know right away, like 1000%, right? That's Frankie Miller. But it's still, in a sense, a very familiar, husky, raspy voice. But this is a great album. Again, I prefer The Rock, but I wanted to add this to the collection. I have a couple other Frankie Millers in my collection as well, so this definitely has a place that I wanted to add. He does a really great cover of John Lennon's Jealous Guy on here. So if you're a Lennon person and Beatles completist, I know you people out there, it's worth picking up. You can usually find this record fairly cheap at a record store, somewhere between, you know, $5 to $10, but usually on that lower end. So highly recommend checking out Frankie Miller if you are not familiar with him. Now, since I was with Bill at the Vinylverse, I had to pick up some Peter Gabriel. I picked up one car, Peter Gabriel, however you want, whatever name you want to give this album, 1977 as well. So much great music coming out in 77. So this is his first solo debut album. It has great contributions from Robert Fripp, I believe, Tony Levin, so you have some great musicians and artists working on this album, right? But this is Peter Gabriel, post-Genesis, trying to make a name for himself, put out some art of his own, and this is a very popular album. I probably don't have to get much into it. Most known for, well, Here Comes the Flood is a fantastic song, but it also has, why can't I think of it now? Salisbury Hill on here, which is a huge Peter Gabriel song. But since I was with Bill, this was like, you know, $6, $7, great condition. I needed to pick up something Peter Gabriel, Genesis related, and he was like digging right next to me, and I just popped this up, and I was like, should I grab it? And he's like, yeah. So, added this to the collection. This next album was put in my hands by Marichen over at Marichen's Music. They actually put out a record store day version of this album. This is a new album. It just came out this year, 2024. And they put out a record store day version. And I told Marichen, I told her, you need to get this album. It has Brian May on it. You know, she loves Queen. I was like, it has Brian May on it. It has all of these guest artists, artists that you love, Cheap Trick, and so on. And I was like, you need to pick this up. She said, okay. So she picked that up. I actually ended up passing just because there were other things more important on my list. So I was like, oh, I'll just pick up another version a little bit later. And I know the record store day version had a couple of bonus songs on there, but so when we were at Princeton Record Exchange, she put this into my hands and said, you better get it this time, which again, another Cheap Trick connection. I enjoy this artist, but the Cheap Trick connection does it for me. But again, so many great musicians on here, and I'm very, very happy to add this to the collection, and that is Ian Hunter's Defiance Part 2. Now, I don't even have Part 1. I have listened to Part 1 before, and I do really like it, so eventually I will pick that up for the collection. But for now, Defiance Part 2, it has a couple of songs with Rick Nielsen, Tom Peterson, and Robin Zander of Cheap Trick, but so many other fantastic artists on here. It has the late, great Jeff Beck featured on here. The late great Taylor Hawkins. It has Lucinda Williams, again, Brian May, right from Queen, members of Def Leppard, Stone Temple Pilots, and more. So, you know, this guy is 85 years old. Ian Hunter's 85 years old. Although his voice doesn't sound the same, for him being 85, it sounds great. His songwriting, of course, is incredible, and this is a very enjoyable album, new album for this year. So it's on that Sun label, Sun Record Company, and then this version that I got was this red vinyl. Now the last thing that I'm going to show is a box set. I had this stack of records. I was walking over to the counter, and I noticed on a shelf behind the counter this box set sitting there, and it was on sale for, I think, $59.99. And this is a band that I love, one of my favorite bands. I have bought a couple of other box sets that they have put out, archival releases, and when this was announced, I was originally going to get it, but it was originally, when I think it first came out, like $180. And then over the last year or so, that's kind of gone down a little bit. You can probably pick this up for about $80, which is a great deal, but this was $59.99, the sticker. And I was kind of looking around at Bill and Marichen and Dylan and Jenna and Jared, and I was trying to be conservative with my money because we'd been to so many shops. We still had so many other shops to go to, and I was like kind of back and forth on it, and the guy brought it down for me, as a great record store employee would do, to basically put it in your hands already. He was like, do you want to look at it? And just shoved it in my hands, and at that point, right, okay, I'll take it. Enough said. So I am very excited about this. $59.99, $60, 5 LP plus a 7-inch plus a booklet, beautifully crafted and curated, perfect for my Beach Boys collection. And that is the Beach Boys Sail on Sailor box set, 1972. So real quickly, again, 5 LPs, you get a 7-inch EP, fully remastered versions of Holland and Carl and the Passions, So Tough. Very unique time for Beach Boys history. It also includes that 7-inch EP from Holland, that Mount Vernon and Fairway. And then it also included, at the time, a previously unreleased legendary concert from Carnegie Hall, 1972. You get 4 additional bonus tracks, 36-page booklet. Now, you guys have seen this box set. You either have this box set already, you bought this when it first came out a couple of years ago. This was something that I passed on. I bought the Feel Flows box set when it first came out. I do gravitate towards that era a little bit more. But this is also a fantastic era, very unique when you get Ricky Fattar and Blondie Chaplin starting to come in and make themselves known in this world. 1973, right? Holland, one of the best Beach Boys album, in my opinion. So I could not pass on this. 5 LP, that's what, like $5 or $10. You can tell I teach history, not math. $10 a record, plus all the little extra stuff, plus this beautiful box set. Great archival release, beautifully curated and I mean, come on. So this was the highlight of the trip for me in terms of record pickups. And it's solely because I feel like I got a really good deal on this, and I wanted this for the collection. And again, you could probably still grab this for, you know, $80. You save $100 from its original price, but I was very excited to pick this up. So thank you to everybody, Bill, Marichen, Dylan, Jenna, and Jared, for staring at me and enabling me to get this. With that, everybody, that is it for this video. I hope that all of you are doing well, and I will see you all for my next video. Bye, guys.